politicians started making the rounds with a radical idea: defund the police.
We got to defund the police.
There's not going to be any disbanding of our police.
Defund the police department.
Defund police department.
They are three words that have become a rallying cry in the streets.
Who do you protect? Who do you serve?
4 months of COVID-19, 4 years of Donald Trump, 40 years of neoliberalism. I'll add the 4 centuries from 1619 to 2019. It was like all of those things overlapped on one another, and it was like a tinderbox. All it really needed was a patch. Just like the abolitionists of the past, we had to abolish the systems and the institutions that kept black people in bondage: prisons, jails, policing. White people who live in suburbs and upper middle class communities, they don't interact with police very much, or hardly ever, maybe never.
Maurice Mitchell is a leader in the movement for Black Lives and the national director of the Working Families Party, both of which are pushing to reduce police budgets.
Our thesis is that police interaction leads to police violence. If you put a bunch of people with guns in your community, surveilling the community every second, you will experience police violence.
A lot of people think of 2020 as a boiling point for civil unrest, but we've been here before. Birmingham in 1963, the Watts riots in Los Angeles 1965, the long hot summer of '67, the MLK assassination, and the riots that followed in 1968. And like many white Americans, President LBJ wanted to know 3 things: what happened, why did it happen, and what can be done to prevent it from happening again. So he formed what came to be known as the Kerner Commission. They concluded that white racism, not black anger or outside agitators, was at fault for the unrest boiling over across the country. It said, quote, "Our nation is moving towards 2 societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. And one of the biggest problems, unjust policing." The report didn't pull any punches. Quote, "In practically every city that has experienced racial disruption since the summer of 1964, abrasive relationships between police and Negroes and other minority groups have been a major source of grievance, tension, and ultimately disorder." But many of the Commission's recommendations were ignored, and similar scenes to the 1960s emerged, like the Rodney King riots in 1992 LA, or Ferguson in 2014 following the killing of Michael Brown. In the aftermath, President Obama established his own commission to improve policing.
To make sure that we are addressing potential underlying tensions between officers in the communities where they're serving.
But implementation was slow, and President Trump rolled much of it back. Which brings us to today, where so many communities still see their relationship with police as broken. After the words "defund the police" spread across the nation, the slogan became a hot-button political issue.
These radical politicians want to defund and abolish the police.
I don't support defunding the police.
I guess you could use a snappy slogan like defund the police, but you lost a big audience the minute you say it.
Respectfully, Barack Obama is a political leader, not a movement leader. I think that's missing the point. That's not the job of social movements. Social movements' jobs are to transform our conditions, transform consciousness, and change our culture.
For many people, defund the police doesn't mean strip all money away from police or disband them completely. Most want those funds to be reappropriated to things like mental health services, housing, jobs programs. For context, across 150 large cities, the average share of police spending has gone up since the 1970s, around 7.8% today on average, compared to, say, 5% for housing or 3% for parks. But it's not just about police budgets. Cops deal with everything from domestic disputes to homelessness to mental health calls, but many don't get the kind of specialized training needed. One study shows half of all people killed by police have some form of disability. To make matters more complicated, our policing system is totally decentralized, controlled at the more than 15,000 county, city, and town police departments across the country, with no direct federal oversight. And in the average American police academy, instructors spend roughly 100